Okay, the actual advice itself now, when you were in there with President Zuma in that process, what do you advise him to do at the beginning? For instance, because we all know that initially he was participating in the process, he appeared, told his side of the story and so on in the initial appearance, and then until everything went haywire later on. But what was your original advice to him?
You know, Zuma is unlike all of these things about he undermines legal processes and Stalingrad. You know, there is nobody I know of all the clients who's as humble as he is. He respects legal processes. Sometimes he respects lawyers to a fault. You know, he's the type of guy that must be surrounded by people who are completely honest. Because if people are dishonest around him, they can lead him down the garden path. So Zuma is not a defiant person about the law or all of those. He respects processes. So he went. By the way, the first appearance was not even my advice. He said he wanted to go. I think he felt it would deal with persecution of his son and the Guptas. And if you realize, he was just dealing with that relationship, you know, and he was not even invited in terms of the rules.
Okay.
They just said, come and grace us with your presence, was a guest of the commission. He went. But over time, it became clear when he was not getting notices and how he was being treated. I think he felt that there was a personal vendetta in the manner in which things were being pursued. And of course, you don't walk out when you've not walked in. So he had walked in first. And so we've got to introspect. How does a man who walked in walk out? It's because somewhere he lost faith when a judge that he had known very closely denies. And when he says, but this man, because of certain things between them, and I hope the two of them will be honest enough to tell us that their conflict has nothing to do with the country or being a judge or being a president. It's purely personal between two men. But I leave that to them. Both of them had to be honest. When I asked for the recusal of the judge, I had felt with what I knew and what he knew, a sensible person would have said, I will step aside and get a colleague of mine to deal with this. So I advised him to go there. But eventually when he felt strongly that he was being persecuted, we sat with him, we gave him scenarios. Forget the tea drinkers who went to him saying we sent him to jail, we didn't advise him. How could we not? We just respected his view. He said, Bafana Bageting Yanis. But I'm not going to that man. I'll respect that commission, but I won't respect a person who doesn't respect basic fundamentals of fairness, who knows we have a history, a very unique history, curious history. One day you will know about it. I can't go before him, and he knows it, and he refuses that. And then he lost faith in the system. He lost faith in the chair, who first said he had never met Zuma and then changed the affidavit and said, no, yes, I am not in the official capacity. Please, man, they had met. They had met. That's all I can tell you. The other relations, they will tell the public one day about what exactly. You know, Mawande, there are so many people in politics who don't speak to each other, and we all think they differed ideologically. You'll find that they fought over a very small thing that men fight about.
And why did you not feel compelled to reveal instead of putting it to him? Because one of the central point of the recusal application was that we have personal relations. And then he denied, of course. But I'm saying when he denied, why did you and your client not say, okay, you know what, actually, now we are compelled to reveal what is the nature of the relationship?
We did. It's just that you guys don't read. In our replying affidavit, we reveal, we counter actually what he says. And he somersault in it. He then, okay, I accept, I know him, we met, but it was in this context. It's because when people are engulfed by propaganda, We don't even want to read documents. Of course, I was not a witness in this matter, so I can't release evidence. And Zuma is a very respectful man. He was never going to humiliate somebody. Sometimes the facts are embarrassing to both parties.
Yes.
Because they're personal, And so as a lawyer, you've got to respect that space when your client has things they're uncomfortable about. Lastly, Mawande, I think I'm naive. I'm naive about judges. I assumed that, as a judge, you don't have to persuade me to recuse myself. The fact that in South Africa I must stand up and persuade a man or woman who's sitting in the high horse as a judge, I must persuade them that, bro, you are conflicted, just shows you the level of depravity. It's something a judge, a proper judge, should do without being persuaded.
Yeah.
You don't have to argue for me to say, I think if a friend of mine was involved in a matter and I'm a judge, or an enemy of mine for that matter, I must be the first to say, I'm not biased, I know myself, but I don't think it's good for me to be the arbiter here. That's what a proper judge should do.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be argued for solid evidence. When there are litigants who don't feel comfortable with you legitimately, you as the judge, that's why you are called judge, it's because you have judgment. You must be able to say, you know what, I'm not the right person here. I'm not guilty of anything, but I'm not the right person. And by the way, I've said this before, judges are not judges because they know the law more than anybody. You can know the law. They are called judges because we believe they have broader and better judgment and wisdom. That's the part that's lacking in South Africa. We have people who know the law, the science of the law, but they lack the fundamentals of being a judge. Being a judge is not a legal term in the world. It's a term that describes someone who's, we believe, has sufficient wisdom to judge over conflicts between others.
Yeah.
And so that judgment, I tell you, is possessed by the men, old men and women in your village who don't know the law. That's what you need from a judge, apart from the law.
Yes.
You need an LLB, yes, but you need that wisdom. And I think that wisdom, that training, that grasp is lacking in our judiciary, as hardworking as it is. Lastly, people just lack self-reflection and honesty, introspection. That's why they are angry with things I'm saying.
Yeah. So when your client said, "Bafana bakithi, sorry, mina ngisayingeni le ndaba yalo muntu, I'm not going back in there after the lunch break or tea break, whatever break it was. I'm leaving. I'm done. Whatever happens, I'm prepared to take it." What do you say as his legal advice?
Yeah, I had delayed my trip to Durban, waiting for Zondo's judgment. And truly, as a lawyer, when we are briefed to go note a judgment, no one can keep you in the room beyond what you are briefed to do. I mean, I know people say, yeah, you should have stayed. But I told them, people don't even listen. I say, may I be excused? And that had happened in another judge, Judge Makubele's matter, where the lawyers said, well, my brief ends here. And they go, there's nothing controversial about that. We are creatures of instruction.
Yes.
So after that, of course, he is the Masugu and the attorney and other junior counsel I had left because I had to go. Went to the then Deputy Chief Justice twice during that break. Twice they went to tell him, the man is not coming back. Could you please know that? He's not coming back. That's not about me. I mean, there were lawyers who could have continued. Well, first of all, lawyers are not witnesses. You can't force me to come back into your court when you want a client, a litigant, if I'm not briefed. So they went to chambers and told him twice. It's never spoken about, But let me give you a bit of, in those matters, you must also understand politics. If Zuma was guilty of anything that was burning in that commission, the police should have pounced on him by now. So we understood too. We understand political strategy. We knew that what was at the heart of that commission was not to find him guilty, but to put him on the stand and humiliate him so that you destroy anything that he stands for. So we knew that. We knew that. When you are involved in political cases, you can't be there and not understand political strategy. And of course, we realized he's right. He says, I'm not going there because he's not guilty of anything. They would have shown us the evidence. They would have arrested him that day. The Hawks don't need a commission to arrest you when there's evidence against you.
Yeah.
What they needed and why they are angry up to today, that's why people are angry with me. It's because we actually, quite frankly, without being arrogant, we saw through their strategy and countered it. We did not put him on the stand to be humiliated. The drama they wanted. It had nothing to do with guilt or innocence. They know we defeated them, and that's why the hatred is big. It's because, yes, we are lawyers, but we know political strategy. And so, when he told us this, what he wanted to do, I agreed with him. And once the process is no longer fair to a client, I can't send him to the gallows. I too did not trust that process. You know, I don't even believe there's a court I would take Zuma to. And by the way, I didn't resign. I'm very close to him even today, like with all my clients. I wouldn't send him to any South African court.